Hindi and English. So my apologies that my technical Hindi is not that great. So therefore it petered out. But I will try my best. कोशिश है गुंजाइश है कि मैं कितना बोल सकती हूँ हिंदी में. इंस्टा मेरी आजकल पार्टी ट्रिक पंजाबी बोलती है because I'm born in a Punjabi family. So and I was born in Mysore. My original name is Kaveri for that reason. So I think different identities have been my dream. So हिंदी जितनी बोल सकती हूँ और जितना बिल्कुल. I break में ये भी request थी कि people want to study more. So I would really say, as Kenda gave my introduction, I have been studying at the house myself since 2014, and I will study till I drop there. I will also study with the Geshe from alive. So the point is that these teachings are very precious, very profound. So मेरी जिंदगी में मेरे को बहुत अच्छे टीचर मिले हैं. कन्वेंशन सब्जेक्ट्स में भी सबसे एक से बढ़कर एक कैम्ब्रिज में और यहाँ पर भी. पर जो टीचर्स ने सबसे प्रभावित जिंदगी में किया है वो दलाई लामा जी हैं और कुछ लोग हैं. तो इस वजह से I would suggest I have got the pamphlets here for the David House courses. There are various levels. 6 साल का मास्टर्स प्रोग्राम अभी चल रहा है, वो तो एकदम से ज्वाइन हो सकता है, पर डिप्लोमा चल रहा है. फिर शॉर्टर कोर्सेज सर्टिफिकेट प्रोग्राम हैं, दूसरे भी छोटे प्रोग्राम हैं और लाइव ट्रांसलेशन भी है हिंदी में अभी चाइनीज में शुरू हो रहा है, रशियन में हो रहा है, हिब्रू में हो रहा है और कौन सी लैंग्वेजेस फ्रेंच में हो रहा है. तो ये सब लाइव ट्रांसलेशन और सब ऑनलाइन है. तो इसके लिए I would suggest if anyone wants more information, the pamphlets are here and you may please ask, get my email also, I'm happy to connect you. That's one thing. So because of the wonderful audience, the questions and people's interest, so I have switched the third part of the presentation. I promise I will not leave Mumbai without touching on 8 verses of my training. You can catch me. But the thing is that I thought that since there are many questions and it is so important because this is the foundation. The Buddha's teachings, though Buddha's teaching को 84,000 कहे जाते हैं, पर उनकी निचोड़ 2 चीज में है, एम्प्टीनेस एंड कंपैशन, शून्यता और करुणा, महाकरुणा. तो ये 2 जैसे चिड़िया के 2 विंग्स होते हैं, तो कहीं जाने के लिए उनको वो दोनों चाहिए होते हैं, एक के साथ नहीं चलता. तो in same way, without emptiness and compassion, both the wings, you cannot cross to the other shore. So we are touching a lot of emptiness right now since morning, because then after that we will go into the great depth of the Mahakaruna ocean. And to make sense of that, as I shared, that the logic of this philosophy makes so much sense. And it is my understanding that the level of compassion that one is able to generate in the methods that the Lojong, the Kadampa teachers are talking about, and that we will also do one of the Guru Chitta practices, that compassion is very different to ordinary level of saying people is kind, something like that. It is very different. And what is being able to be generated here, because of the foundational ground of the philosophy, is very stable, very, very profound. So here, as I shared, this is Arya Arjuna from Colombo. This is his text called The Fundamental Wisdom of the Middle Way. And these 2 verses summarize the whole text in a way. So he says that which dependently originates is position to be empty of independent existence. That being dependently designated, this is the middle way. Since there is no phenomena that is not dependently originated, therefore there is no phenomena that is not originated. तो हम सुबह बातचीत कर रहे थे कि शून्यता की बात करने में ये 2 चीज को 2 प्रश्न पूछना है. एक तो कि do things exist, चीज एग्जिस्ट करती है या नहीं करती. उसमें जवाब है बिल्कुल करती है, क्योंकि अगर हम ना बोले तो हम बिल्कुल नॉन एग्जिस्टेंस नाहिलिज्म के तौर में जाए, और ये सही नहीं है, हमारा एक्सपीरियंस भी नहीं है. जैसे मैं पिंच करूँ तो मेरे को बिल्कुल दुख लगता है, ऐसी चीज है ना. तो एक तो वो क्वेश्चन हुआ. सेकंड क्वेश्चन इज डू थिंग्स एग्जिस्ट ऑब्जेक्टिवली, एंड द आंसर इज नो. तो अगर आप बोले कि ऑब्जेक्ट के तौर से ऑब्जेक्टिवली इंडिपेंडेंटली सेल्फ सपोर्टेड ऐसे एग्जिस्टेंस है, उसका प्रश्न का जवाब देते, they do not. So here Arya is saying that which dependent originates position to be empty of independent existence. तो हमने बोला था सुबह कि empty does not mean nothingness. Empty means short form of emptiness of objective existence. So here Arya is saying position to be empty of independent existence, empty of inherent existence, empty of that being dependently designated. This is the middle. तो फिर सुबह ये प्रश्न आया था that this khata, right? We are not negating that it is existing. बिल्कुल, this is a white khata. You are seeing, I am seeing. We are validly seeing. It is there. But we are saying that this is not independently existent, objectively existent. Although it appears like that to us, we are apprehending at our level like that. But this is not its reality. The actual reality of it is that this is dependently originated. On the basis of many factors, it comes into being. And of all these factors, one of the most important is the mind which labels and keeps getting. And there are other factors also, like I said in the morning. And it goes on to say that there is no phenomena that is not dependently originated, there is no phenomena that is not. तो पूरे दुनिया में आप एक भी चीज नहीं मेरे को दिखा सकते जो is not empty of objective existence. हर चीज आप मेरे को कोई भी सामने ले आए तो it is empty, including emptiness itself. वो भी अपने आप से नहीं exist करता, वो भी उसका भी status ऐसा है. तो ये है प्रोफाउंड. आप कहेंगे कि लंच के बाद ऐसा टॉपिक हमको नींद तो आने वाली है, तो आई विल बी वेरी अंडरस्टैंडिंग इफ सम पीपल नॉट ऑफ, बट आई हैव टू कैरी ऑन बिकॉज ऑफ द लॉजिकल सीक्वेंस. सो प्लीज नेक्स्ट स्लाइड. सो नाउ एज आई सेड, एम्प्टीनेस एंड डिपेंडेंट ओरिजिनेशन ये कॉइन के दो हिस्से हैं. एक साइड में एम्प्टीनेस ऑफ ऑब्जेक्टिव एग्जिस्टेंस, और अगर आप उसकी एक्सेप्टेंस करें तो दूसरा साइड है डिपेंडेंट ओरिजिनेशन. और डिपेंडेंट ओरिजिनेशन के दो भाग है. एक तो डिपेंडेंट, जो चीज डिपेंडेंट होगी ऑटोमेटिकली वो इंडिपेंडेंट नहीं होगी, है ना. अगर मैं कहूँ कि आई डिपेंड ऑन माई बॉडी, तो उसका मतलब आई एम नॉट इंडिपेंडेंट ऑफ माई बॉडी. सिंपल, राइट. ओरिजिनेशन का मतलब है कि कुछ तो आता है ना, कुछ तो आता है. इट इज नॉट कि कुछ चीज आती है. तो ओरिजिनेशन निगेट्स nihilism and dependent negates absolutism, permanence, everything like that. So these two, that which dependently originates is physically empty of independent existence. So like I said, emptiness is not nothingness. Emptiness means empty from the object side. So, and then you reject one extreme. You have rejected absolutism or things coming purely from the side of the object. On the other side, you are saying origination and you are saying origination, yes. So something comes into being. It is coming through various factors. And we will go into that more later. So it is the extreme of non-existence. Next slide, please. Now, there are three levels of dependent origination. तो अब इसमें जैसे मैं कह रही हूँ, मेरे को लिस्ट का बहुत अटैचमेंट है. लिस्ट नंबर 1 2 3 4 5 6 2 4 5. तो उसका ये बात है कि बहुत डिटेल में रहता है, पर्टिकुलर रहता है ना, कोई ऐसे जस्ट एरी फेरी. तो इसमें भी 3 टाइप के डिपेंडेंस हैं. अब एक का रिजल्ट डिपेंडेंस अपॉन कॉज. Number 2, dependent origination of whole is dependent on the parts. And number 3, dependent origination of dependence on mere major implication derivation. तो अब हमने बात की सुबह impermanent phenomena की बात की थी, and that which undergoes momentary change. हमने बोला था कि impermanent phenomena का definition इस ट्रेडिशन में ये नहीं है कि हजारों साल रहे या 1 साल रहे. Definition of impermanent phenomena: anything that undergoes momentary change is impermanent. Now, for impermanent phenomena, only level 1 of dependent origination apply. sorry, for impermanent phenomena, all three levels apply, right? But for permanent phenomena, number one does not apply. Because result coming depending upon cause, that suggests that something undergoes change, right? And therefore only you can get a result. Therefore, number one does not apply to permanent phenomena. Okay. Next slide, please. Now some facts, cause and effect cannot be simultaneous. Okay? Like for example, let's take an example of cause and effect, right? Like it cannot be simultaneous. Say I drink the whole glass of water, then result I may need to use a toilet. So they are sequential, right? They are not happening. Now, the whole universe operates on causal dependent relation. So here coming back to Aditya's question. Aditya must have been student of this philosophy in his previous life because he has already anticipated this slide, and he asked about fatalism and he also asked about determinism and all of this. So here where now karmic, now universe, everything depends, like all impermanent phenomena. Remember that Buddha said as first seal, all composite phenomena are impermanent. He was talking about composite impermanent phenomena, right? Now within that, there are two kinds of cause and effect. One is natural cause and effect, the earth spinning, morning turning to night, season. तो पूरे जो भी हम चीज सोच सकते हैं ये कॉज इफेक्ट के दौरान में चलता है. एक तो हुआ नेचुरल कॉज एंड इफेक्ट, जैसे सीजन, अभी मैं कुछ फेंकूं तो वो नीचे ग्रेविटी की वजह से गिर जाएगा, है ना, उसका नेचुरल कॉज एंड इफेक्ट, उसका कोई इंटेंशन नहीं इन्वॉल्व. अब श्री राम जी का जो क्वेश्चन था कि व्हाट इज कर्मा, राइट? अब कर्मा इज वेयर देयर इज इंटेंशन, एक्शन. So either you can define it as action or you can talk of it as intention, which is in a way the same thing because intention makes the mind move. Okay. So now karmic cause and effect, these are linked to the being's mental factor of intention. So for example, that intention matters, and in fact, one of the things that these Lojong masters, that 8 verses of mind training, I told you it belongs to the genre of Tibetan Buddhist writings called Lojong, mind training. उसमें से दे बहुत famous चीज है one at the beginning and one at the end. So what is the one at the beginning? Correct motivation. What is an example of that? If I came here to give this teaching, thinking now, how will then again I'll become very famous, and everybody in Mumbai, I can just that is an incorrect motivation. Whereas if the motivation is that even if one being takes away something useful, that is good. That is the proper motivation. So one at the beginning motivation, one at the end derivation. So likewise, in our day-to-day life examples, every day, and Sri Ramji and many of you have slightly emboldened me to give my modern day examples because that is something that I can bring to the teachers. हम बात करते हैं कॉर्पोरेट सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, ठीक है? अब इतने अमीर लोग हो गए, some people have become so rich that they are richer than countries, right? So they have philanthropic organization, and you have corporate social responsibilities here. Now, if I do CSR with the motivation that I should have more business in the future, or I should have greenwashing, कि मैं साइड में कुछ बुरे काम कर रही हूँ environmentally and all, पर ये काम करके फिर मेरा नाम बड़ा अच्छा हो जाएगा. अगर मैं इस मोटिवेशन में एक भी डॉलर दूँ तो बहुत गलत मोटिवेशन है और उसका नतीजा भी सही नहीं आएगा. दूसरे तौर में अगर मैं 1 रुपया भी दूँ पर मेरा मोटिवेशन बहुत अच्छा है और प्योर है, उसका रिजल्ट नतीजा बिल्कुल अलग है. तो इस वजह से हम बाहर से ये नहीं देख सकते कि what are the cause and effect, what are the motivation, what is a good or bad action. We cannot judge here really because it depends. Like mother forces children to go to school, right? Right now, small Tenzin is with us. Now, mother is her motivation. Father also, right? She may not want to go to school, but motivation of them is pure, right? They want her to have a good life and be able to, and therefore education is important. So that is the correct motivation, and the incorrect motivation would be that, okay, she's tired, she doesn't want to go to school tomorrow is Monday, and so we just keep her at home. Then when she goes out, she's gonna. So therefore, this now, how can this be used? So Aditya, to answer your question, cause and effect. If there are young people in this room, somebody wants to become a physicist, right? They need to study physics. How can we use this notion here? How can we use the Buddha's teaching that everything operates in cause and effect? So if I want to make bhel puri, I need to gather the causes for bhel puri. Now, whether the bhel puri is tasty or not or fantastic, that is also dependent on many other factors. But initially, if I gather the causes for, anda parotha, the bhel puri is not going to come out, right? No matter what I do. So therefore, you need to have causes concomitant with the results. So at least this is how now answering your question, Aditya. Here is where your agency comes. Okay? अगर मेरे को if I want to become super wealthy और जो भी है मेरा goal and there is no value judgment, अगर मेरे को बहुत अमीर बनना है फिर मैंने उसको ये causes gather करनी चाहिए है ना उसके लिए जो भी मतलब तो in this is karmic cause and result. And here we cannot see karma, what I was saying, hidden phenomena to the question earlier, that we cannot judge because, for example, in the teachings they would say that wealth is the result of generosity, jinha. So in your previous lives you have exercised generosity, you will in this life or you will there or some life there will be wealth. So they have that metaphysical component which we are not getting into. But in our day-to-day life, we can say that, if little Tenzin wants to become an astrophysicist, then she has to study and, do all those things. She cannot be playing the whole day in the ground and everything because the result will not be concomitant with the course. So here's where a very practical application of the Buddha's teaching. And we can also utilize this at so many levels once we know this, right? And like I'm saying, okay, there may be a little bit of lag, like if something is ripening or I cannot change tomorrow, right? If I want to become a master of this philosophy, I have to, there is the element of time and effort and all that. I can't hasten that. But I can keep putting in the causes, right? Because sooner or later, invariably, like the Buddha has said, you will not experience the result of things you have not done. And reverse, you will also, what you have done, you will definitely experience the result, right? And the Buddha has also said, I cannot wash your negativity, nor can I, put you in a full awakening. I can only teach you, and then it is up to you. You are your own master. So here the lever is in your hand. It is not somebody else. And so, and then of course, more profoundly, we can use this to what are the causes of happiness and pain, and there we can use it to answer the Priyanka's question on, renunciation of what. Once we know, because if causality is the key principle, then अगर हमको मालूम है कि हमारी खुशी किस चीज से आती है, cause क्या है, immediate cause, long term cause, and similarly हमारे दुख का cause क्या है, long term cause, short term, फिर हमारे ऊपर है हम क्या करें ना करें. Next slide please. अब दूसरा level dependent origination is whole is dependent on parts. So the whole of the glass, it is dependent on its parts, its color, shape, glass, bottom, top, everything, right? At all the things. So this is another level of dependent origination. And these become subtler and subtler as we go. And as I said, the second and third levels apply to both permanent and impermanent phenomena both. Next slide, please. Now this one is very subtle. This we were talking in the morning. देखो वहाँ पर है object, है ना? And here is my subject of mind. So दो चीज़. So this level of dependent origination is saying dependence on mere mental designation invitation. So जो object है, there is nothing coming object के side से. But rather, final analysis में it is my mental designation, labeling of something as something. This is where it comes to that 100% coming from your mental position. Of course, I'm talking about the highest philosophical school. There are many Buddhist schools, जैसे पहला question आया था, also of Aditya, but he was talking about ancient Buddhism, but within Buddhism, the various सिद्धांत 10 schools में, तो अलग-अलग mental disposition के लिए बुद्धा ने अलग-अलग पढ़ाया था. कितना डिग्री ऑफ सब्जेक्टिविटी ऑब्जेक्टिविटी, कितना ऑब्जेक्टिविटी को रिजेक्शन करना है, कितना सब्जेक्टिविटी को प्रपोज करना है, ये वॉज डिपेंडिंग अपॉन डिफरेंट बीइंग्स का मेंटल डिस्पोजिशन. तो एंड देन ऑफ कोर्स नॉन बुद्धिस्ट स्कूल दे विल सर्टेनली प्रपोज ऑब्जेक्टिविटी. तो जैसे हम कह रहे थे कि ऑल फिनोमेना, सो दिस अप्लाइज टू ऑल फिनोमेना, परमानेंट, इम्परमानेंट, एवरीथिंग. एंड मैंने कहा यहाँ मेटाफर काफ़ी हो सकते हैं, जैसे मूवी एंड प्रोजेक्टर. तो प्रोजेक्टर इज योर माइंड एंड द मूवी ऑन द स्क्रीन इज द ऑब्जेक्ट. सो द ऑब्जेक्ट इज ऑन द स्क्रीन बट इट इज कमिंग फ्रॉम द माइंड. द मिनट आई पुट ऑन और ऑफ द प्रोजेक्टर, वो मूवी शुरू या नॉट शुरू. दैट्स वन मेटाफर. Another metaphor can be of a dream, where in the dream it is all coming from your mind, but you see it as a fully 3D, thing is going on, and then, but it is actually coming. So the final mode of existence as per Buddha and as expounded most in its fullest sense by Arya Nagarjuna Gonpolundo is that emptiness of objectivity is the objectivity of the object. So इसका मतलब है कि जो ये the emptiness of objectivity is the ground ontological reality of all things, everything. So to gain conviction in this, we need to study a lot. That's why we are doing, because when I say that modern physics is converging, modern physics is discovering that, observer effect, what they call, कि जो ऑब्जर्वर का इफेक्ट है तो उस हिसाब से ऑब्जेक्ट चेंजेस है ना. तो दैट नाउ आई एम सेइंग दे वर लिटिल बिट प्लेजराइजिंग एंड कमिंग टू इट इन एकेडमिक पार्लेंस. तो whatever it is not identical, but modern physics is coming very close to this view. And here the view is that this is my 100% subjective intuition. But of course, many of you will have questions: how is this different from reality and all this? And there, next slide please. So there the big thing, remember we said two things exist, yes. If I fall down right now, do I have pain? Yes. If we all go through, I'm undergoing my reality, you are undergoing yours, right? It exists. But do things exist objectively? Answer is no. They exist 100% subjectively. And in this thing, the hardest point of this Madhyamika philosophy is how do you have 100% subjectivity alongside infallible dependency rejection. What does it mean? It means that while this cup is 100% subjective, projecting from my mind, existing in that status, yet based on numerous factors, it is only a cup that is coming into being. This is not a mouse man. And I cannot make it a mouse. So you see what I'm saying? It is not imaginary. It is subject to the laws of functionality, cause and effect. So while it is 100% coming as a projection, it is very much only something that is going to emerge based on certain factors, right? I cannot make this into a labubu. Because there are no the factors and causes and conditions and all the various factors for labubu is not. So everybody's eyes are still open. तो मैं कहती कि बिना ये एक तौर में हम कह रहे हैं कि बिल्कुल 100% हमारे माइंड से आ रहे हैं, पर फिर ये प्रश्न आ सकता है कि फिर इमेजिनेशन और इसमें क्या फर्क है. तो मैं कह रही थी इस मध्यमिका ये हाईएस्ट लेवल ऑफ फिलॉसफी जिसमें ये पूरा ऑब्जेक्टिविटी को निगेट करते हैं, उसको कहते हैं कि कोई भी चीज ऑब्जेक्टिवली नहीं एग्जिस्ट करती, तो 100% सब्जेक्ट के तौर से आ रही है, पर उसमें फंक्शनैलिटी है, कॉज एंड इफेक्ट है। मैं किसी चीज से कुछ और चीज नहीं बना, क्योंकि इमेजिनेशन है। इमेजिनेशन में भी यार इसको लघु मैं बना सकती हूँ, पर रियल फंक्शनैलिटी में ये लघु नहीं है, और हम सब मान रहे हैं। तो ये दोनों चीज को जोड़ना, 100% सब्जेक्टिविटी एंड नॉट इमेजिनेशन, ये दोनों चीज ये फिलोसफी की सबसे हार्डेस्ट चैलेंज है। तो बट मैं शेयर करें, और जो आर्य मंजुश्री है, जो बुदा ऑफ विजन है, ये लामा संखापा ग्रेट 14th सेंचुरी का टीचर, और बहुत बहुत मतलब एकेडमिक लेवल में भी, जब मेरे अपने एकेडमिक लाइफ में जब मैं देखती हूँ इन रूल्स का क्या आउटपुट रहा है, और कौन सी कंडीशंस में, अगर इनकी लाइफ स्टोरी जिनपा ने बहुत अच्छी लिखी है, बुदा इन द लैंड ऑफ स्नोज, तो उसमें लिखा हुआ है इनके 18 वॉल्यूम, पता नहीं क्या क्या वे लिखते हैं उन दिनों में। तो वो तो आइटिनरेंट थे, मतलब हर जगह अलग अलग जगह जा रहे हैं, तो उन दिनों में लाइब्रेरी वगैरह भी ऐसे नहीं होती, पर वो कितना पढ़ते हैं, कितना लिखते हैं, और कितना पढ़ाते हैं और दूसरी चीज करते हैं, तो ये काफी एक्स्ट्राऑर्डिनरी। तो उनका ये बुदा विजन के साथ डायरेक्ट ओपिनियन रहता था। तो उन्होंने उनको बोला कि देखो, आप अपीयरेंसेस को रिस्पेक्ट करना चाहिए, कि उसी लेवल में सब चीज चलता है। अब इसका मैं आगे समझाऊंगी इसका क्या मतलब है। नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लीज। तो अब जो भी हमारे माइंड है ना, और माइंड इस फिलॉसफी में बहुत सेंट्रल है, क्योंकि इस फिलॉसफी में हार्ट कोई ऐसी चीज नहीं है ज्यादा, क्योंकि इनके दो टाइप के, जैसे कॉग्निटिव और अफेक्टिव, तो कंपैशन वगैरह भी मेंटल फैक्टर है, उसमें अफेक्टिव एलिमेंट है, इमोशनल एलिमेंट है, पर फाइनल तौर में वो भी मेंटल फैक्टर है। तो इनके में माइंड बहुत बहुत सेंट्रल है, इसीलिए इसका इस फिलॉसफी का बहुत अपील है, ग्रेटली अपीलिंग टू academic critical thinkers, agnostics, atheists. They are very drawn to this philosophy for these reasons. So now there any mind that you can think of, roughly speaking, it has to fall into two categories, either conventional analysis or ultimate analysis. So what are these two things? So conventional analysis is a mind which does not go beyond how the object appears to the naked eye, or how we conventionally speak about things. And so, like, let's say, for example, I say, like, thank you, Sanjukta, for the glass of water, right? Now we are all agreeing that this is a glass of water, and even I'm seeing, and you are seeing, and we are all seeing, and I take a sip. It's also functioning as water, right? So this is convention. If there was no water in the building just now and they said, oh, there's a teaching going on, we need water, they go to the local corner shop and ask, can you give a crate of water? They will give you a crate of water, and everybody knows what you are asking, what you are getting. That is conventional analysis. आप उसकी कोई जांच नहीं कर रहे, आप दूर से मतलब मेटाफोरिकली जो भी है तो उसको दिखाई दे रहा है, और जो उस दिमाग से आपको जो चीज मिलती है वो कन्वेंशनल ट्रूथ है, क्योंकि हर चीज के दो ट्रूथ भी है। तो ये कन्वेंशनल ट्रूथ है ना। अब पानी का ग्लास, तो मैंने पानी का ग्लास में इनको की जो लंच सर्व किया उनको इतने टाइम, तो उनको मैं बोलूंगी कि प्लीज सेकंड दही वाला, वो भी दही वाला दे देंगे, दही वाला, और उसमें कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं है ना, वो कन्वेंशनल एनालिसिस है, खत्म कहानी। और मैंने दही वाला बहुत इंजॉय किया, ठीक है, एक फंक्शन एज दही वाला। Now, ultimate analysis is a mind which analyzes the object, searching for the object's ultimate nature. Now, मैं आपको चैलेंज लगाऊं कि देखो, अगर if this cup were to exist objectively, ऑब्जेक्ट के ऊपर ये एग्जिस्ट है, तो हाउ वुड वी एग्जामिन कि दिस इज देयर और नॉट? वी वुड गो क्लोजर टू द ऑब्जेक्ट, राइट? वी वुड गो टू सी दैट इज इट रियली कप? Let me go, like, even if I don't go physically, I go mentally closer, right? I go closer to see, is this really the cup or the object, right? So the mind which goes closer to analyze what is on the object is ultimate analysis. ठीक है? So as Arya Nagarjuna only says, he says famously, if the mirage were to be water, why not those close to the mirage see water, right? So if I propose that no, sorry, everything exists on the object. So if I need to investigate this, I have to go closer to see, okay, what is on the object, right? That mind is called ultimate analysis. So you have crossed the boundary of convention. Okay? It's like if, Manjot has to go to buy bread or something in the morning, right? She goes and asks the baker, can I have a loaf of bread? So baker gives her the loaf of bread. Now, if she crosses the boundary of convention and starts saying, where is the bread? Is the bread in the crust? Is the bread in the wheat? Is it in the, sourdough? Is it in the color? Is it in the shape? Is it in the smell? Where is the bread? I cannot. Then she has crossed the boundary of convention and she's gone into ultimate analysis. Now, the truth, what the object that you find when you go into ultimate analysis, this is the ultimate truth of the object. And every single object has these two truths. Conventional truth, which is the truth that is found when your frame of reference is conventional analysis. And ultimate truth, which is the object that is found when your frame of reference is ultimate analysis. So जो हर चीज जो हम सोच सकते हैं उनके ये दो ट्रूथ हैं, इनको ये दो असलियत है. एक कन्वेंशनल लेवल में जिसमें हम दूर से कोई चीज मांगते हैं, पूछते हैं, तो अब फूल है ये, तो मैं भी बोल रही हूँ ये इतनी सुंदर फूल है, आप इस फूल को समझ रहे हो, मैं किस चीज की बात कर रही हूँ, और ऐसा चल रहा है. ये कन्वेंशनल एनालिसिस का माइंड है, और जो ऑब्जेक्ट मिलता है वो कन्वेंशनल ट्रूथ. अब इसके अगर मैं जाके पूछूं कि ये फ्लावर कहाँ पर है, इसका पेटल फ्लावर है, इसका स्टेम फ्लावर है, इसका रंग फ्लावर है, इसका उमर फ्लावर है, इसका फ्लावर, फिर आई हैव गॉन इनटू अल्टीमेट एनालिसिस. और वहां जो मेरे को मिले या ना मिले, दैट इज द अल्टीमेट ट्रूथ ऑफ द ऑब्जेक्ट. और हर चीज के ये दो ट्रूथ है. तो अब कौन सा दिमाग लगा रहे हैं आप, उस हिसाब से आपको ऑब्जेक्ट मिलेगा. तो next slide please. So now, depending on your frame of reference, आप दोनों सही में हैं. अगर आप देखो एक ग्रुप को हम बना दे कन्वेंशनल एनालिसिस का ग्रुप, ये वाला ग्रुप, और आप अल्टीमेट एनालिसिस वाला ग्रुप, ठीक है, तो आप देखेंगे ये मेरे टेबल में पानी का ग्लास, ठीक है, तो यू विल से दैट ऑब्जेक्ट इज द वाटर. And this group will go closer into ultimate analysis and they will see the atoms, neutrons, protons. Water disappears. And they will say that what is there, water disappears and you are just seeing a pool of atoms. And you both are correct depending on your frame of reference. Your frame of reference is conventional analysis, their frame of reference is ultimate analysis. And those of you who are new to Buddhism, you may still have heard the heart sutra, form is empty. So, ultimate truth. So, form meaning form, that form is empty. We said empty is not nothingness, we are saying empty of objective existence. So, when I go closer to this object, all the things I was like the sweet water of Hawaii, and that water, right? It functions as water. Now I go into where is this atom? When I've gone, this water disappears as an object, right? I've gone into the cross the boundary of convention. I'm in ultimate analysis. Now I just see a pool of atoms. All those emotional stores, attachment, aversion, all this will disappear, right? And what I find is absence of water, right? So you found the emptiness of objective water. And remember one thing, that here we said one thing, we will only undertake ultimate analysis to check the objective existence of the object. We are not looking for just the object, because just the object, that is to be determined by the conventional analysis, right? Because conventional analysis is the mind that says this is a table, this is yellow, this is a glass of water, this is a sofa, this is a khata, or we are all in agreement, right? It's when I go to the ultimate, what am I going to do? Because like we said, if things existed objectively, then they should exist on the object, right? So I metaphorically go closer to the object to see what exactly is there. If I do not find something and I am rejecting something, I am rejecting objective something. I am not rejecting the thing itself, right? Because I am going to see कि अगर ये objective existent पानी होता था है, तो जब मैं पास में जाऊं तो मेरे को दिखाई देना चाहिए, है ना? जैसे अगर मेरा सड़क में दिखाई दे और अगर वो पानी है तो मैं पास में जाऊंगी तो पानी दिखाई देगा, है ना? और अगर नहीं मिलेगा मेरे को, फिर मेरे को रिजेक्शन करना है कि ये ऑब्जेक्टिव मिराज नहीं है ना? पर मैं मिराज को नहीं निगेट कर सकती हूँ, क्योंकि जब मैं बाहर दूर आऊंगी तो वो ये होगा, है ना? तो ये दो है. सो फॉर्म इज एम्प्टी इज द अल्टीमेट ट्रूथ, राइट? एंड वी सेड अर्लियर दैट दो सेल्फ ग्रास्पिंग इग्नोरेंस, उसके ऊपर इनअप्रोप्रिएट अटेंशन, उसके ऊपर afflictions, उसके ऊपर contaminated karmas, right? We were saying now, just to wake you up after lunch, like I'm saying, self-casting ignorance, I don't know, objective existence of, labubu, objectively existing labubu, then inappropriate attention that this labubu is like the best doll that was ever created in the world. Then after that, the affliction, now how do I get the labubu? It's not coming in the shape and form, and it's my budget. Only I can afford the fufu, and I don't want the fufu, all these things. Then contaminated karma, I may steal it. Then misery, they'll catch me and put me into, a jail in Shanghai. So that is how it works, right? Now, if I can just get rid of this self-gassing, this objective labubu, if I just get out, where is this labubu coming, right? It's my mind project, right? So there are, based on many factors, like we live in an age where people are just kind of, juvenile. And then there's some marketing, and then there's some, this labubu, you put this plastic, awful, whatever plastic base and those furry hairs and all. And then we do some marketing, and on the basis of all this we have, and then we push up the price artificially to create scarcity. And then we do some ad campaign, and then 3 celebrities carry this funny, the labubu, and then in a shot you have that thing, right? If we get rid of this, what is on the object? There's nothing there. You go close to see what is there. Objectively real labubu, you go close to the object, it just dissolves. It's a pool of atoms. There's no labubu there. So you have rejected objective labubu, right? Then everything stacked on that objective labubu, like this inappropriate attention, like it's the best doll in the world, Now Barbie's nowhere, it's all about labubu. Then on top of that, your afflictions, you are getting like attachment. How do I get the labubu? And how do now I have to show all the people in Mumbai that I have a genuine labubu, and without this people will not think what class I am, where am I fitting in the whole scene. I cannot even afford labubu, and then on top of that, your contaminated karma, and you are not traveling abroad, and when you do go abroad, nobody buys you a labubu. And then something.
We were just wondering what is labubu. Sorry, maybe the younger generation knows, but some of us we didn't know what is labubu.
Labubu is this overpriced, terrible Chinese doll.
Okay.
Tenzin, do you know what labubu is? Okay. So Tenzin is going to. Okay, can somebody give the mic to Tenzin and tell what is a labubu? Tenzin will tell us what is a labubu.
Okay, I see.
Tenzin, can you describe what is labubu, please? Nobody, adults don't know. You can explain a little bit. Tenzin, please stand up. You can explain. You have a very good knowledge. You're feeling shy, right? Is it with you, your labubu? No. Oh, I could have shown the audience. Okay, so it's a kind of a little doll that you can hang on your rucksack or bag or something. But and the original Labubu is costing a lot.
Really?
Yes, it's like hundreds of dollars.
I heard something there.
And people have also broken into shops, and some shop people have had a problem with their stock, like they've had thieves. Collective karma, Sri Ramji, that people even broke into the stores of the original Labubu, and then they started making Lafufu as the ripoff. And then China got very fed up because normally they don't mind being the ripoff factory of the world, but because Labubu is originally Chinese, they didn't want to make Lafufu. So this is our existence, exactly. So that if you get rid of this, form is empty. This Labubu, if you go close up in ultimate analysis, it is just going to, there's no Labubu to be found. So there's no objective Labubu. And then emptiness is formed, but out of those dependent origination factors, we discussed 3 of them, right? Out of those factors, yes, Labubu form only comes. You cannot create something else you want out of it. And then these 2 truths are the truth found on every single object. So they both are entity-wise one. Emptiness is not other than form, form is also not other than emptiness. So mentally we can think of these 2, but every single object has these 2 truths. So that, next. So now, Arya says, when this emptiness, as explained, is thus meditated upon by yogis, no doubt there will arise in them a sentiment attached to others. So now the question comes. Yogis here means not, again in India we have many understanding of yogi. Yogi here is somebody who has seen emptiness directly. Meaning they don't go through a conceptual image and all that, they directly see emptiness of objective existence. So when such a thing happens, he says, no doubt there will arise in them a sentiment attached to others' welfare. So this was the morning's question on, the various levels of compassion. So the deepest level, I remember once His Holiness was in Delhi to give teachings. This must have been about now maybe 15 or 13 years ago, somewhere there. And where he stayed was like a hotel which overlooks a very busy roundabout. And he said that I look down and I see all these people rushing about, and I just think about, what are they rushing like? So you can see that somebody who, in their own experience, so they call like somebody who has directly realized emptiness. So in their meditation, it's like space-like, right? Because in your meditation in ultimate analysis, what happens when we go into the level of ultimate analysis, you see a pool of atoms, right? So there is a disappearance of all these objective objects that we are seeing, right? Everything we interact with, it will disappear at that level. You see an absence. An absence is emptiness of objective existence of A, B, C, D, E, F, G, C, D. But then when you come back into conventional analysis, then we see everything as illusion like. And the emphasis is on the word like because it is not illusion. As we said earlier, illusion can be imaginary, you can illusion anything. But in this case, it is infallible depending origination, cause and effect works. So when you come into conventional analysis, I will only see a glass of water here, I'm not seeing something else here, right? So that is there now. Next slide, please. Okay, so now we can take questions and then we can go back to slide 17. What is the time?
1:45, so 45 minutes.
Okay, so let's take some questions and then we can go to 8 verses. Yeah. Yeah.
No doubt there will arise in them a sentiment attached to the others welfare. Getting that sentiment attached to the others.
Yeah, so because as I shared earlier, Sri Ramji, I'm going to go into that within emptiness, like I shared that the entire lojong or that whole genre of teachings is about generating the highest levels of compassion. And compassion is a mental factor, wishing others to be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. And for that, you need to have two things. You need to have a feeling of closeness to others, and you need to also see their suffering, right? So now, in terms of the levels of compassion, one is just the compassion seeing sentient beings. A subtler level is understanding of emptiness, impermanence, and then seeing sentient beings. What is the situation? And the most profound compassion is where you see the emptiness nature of things, and then you see the situation of sentient beings. So relating it to this morning's teachings, we said that of the three sufferings, the Buddha was talking about the third, which is the pervasive conditioned suffering of seeing things as objectively real. Self-casting ignorance is the mastermind. So now when we see that that is the key thing that is even creating the other two kind of sufferings, then when we perceive that, and then we perceive as we share that, the first two sufferings, we are still able to be aware, experience, even the second when somebody has taught us, we are able to get it more easily, right? But the third level, we find it difficult to even identify and be aware. So therefore, a yogi who has realized that nature of things at the most profound level and has got rid of that self-grasping ignorance in a sense, they are going to feel compassion for the rest of us. Because what are we doing? And that is why it is so very profound.
My question is that you mentioned that objects have a subjective existing, like it's a projection of our mind, and when we realize that we can save ourselves from suffering. So, is it like only objects, or is it like also our experiences with people? Like say we have a positive or a negative experience with people, is that also a projection of our own mind?
Okay, can you go back to that slide that shows that season of karma and afflictions? What was your name again? Maria. I think it is the morning one.
Morning.
Yeah, and the next one I think.
This way?
Yeah. So see here, Maria, that now we said, see that these are like, there are 5 key points here. So we are talking about the ground as being self-casting ignorance. So can you give me a specific example of, say, for example,
for instance, like I am a teacher, and like when I go to my classroom, like typically one grade I find them very receptive, behaving very well.
Okay.
And there's another different grade that they generally tend to be a little rebellious, and they don't follow any instructions. And so now after hearing you, I'm wondering, is it like my own perception which is making them behave this way? Like just a trying to understand.
Exactly. So thank you very much. So I'm going to answer that, and this again, this group is amazing because many of your questions are looking going into areas that are key. So I'm going to answer it another way, and those of you who are students of Geshe, please, I told Geshe that Geshe, how can I teach you? Because it's like just parroting some of what you taught us, and then he said that's how everybody starts. So the thing is there's a clap, say there are 2 factors, right, and clap. And he gives this analogy for the sound of miseries or sufferings, right? So let's take your example, right? That, there are 2 factors in your experience of this rebellious class, right? There's the external class and there's your feelings of preparation, right? And when they come together, there is a bit of anxiety or whatever. Right, and so now the factor is that yes, the rebellious class external factor, right? But internal factor that is contributing to that is what's within you, right? Now, this external factor, like even if you sort out this rebellious class, but you are a teacher, right? There could be another rebellious class, there could be rebellious, there could be rebellious students, then as you go to higher grades, you can become more and more crafty or whatever. You know, you can't exactly stop. And on this, there's a very beautiful verse by this 8th century Bodhisattva Shantideva who says, "Where is there enough leather to cover the whole earth? But if I wear shoes, I'm able to kind of serve the same purpose, right?" So what he's saying is that external factors are infinite. We cannot manage them all. We can try, but on the other hand, internal factors there are only two. And the internal factors that this self-casting ignorance, the creator of the shopping mall, seeing things as objectively real, and then complemented by that self-centered attitude that I am more important than others, and even if I'm not more important, at least I'm very important and everybody else has these two factors. So whenever we feel pain, discomfort and all, it is our self-centered attitude that is sort of manifesting that. And that is complemented with this objective view of how things exist. You kind of feel that there's rebellion stuff out there, right? And you have to go to this step. And then you get that inappropriate attention that, oh, they are really one of those scratches I ever had. And then your affliction comes, you feel a little bit like aversion. You don't feel like going to play the class, like you can just do something blank, which can be quite scary with teenagers. Right?
Actually, learning that first time.
Exactly. So very rowdy. And then your contaminated karmas that today should I just tell the head mistress that I'm feeling sick. I don't feel like going and facing them, right? Just make up a white lie. So that's how it works. So here I would say that yes, no doubt there is external factor in the sense that, you know, there's, like we said, infallible dependent institution who are, there is that, you know, based on the present factors, what is there is this rebellious class, right? But that, and that even if you sort out this rebellious class or 5 of them, then there is some other factor. And no matter how much effort, although our entire life's effort is to make our external factors good, whether it's materially or any other, but we cannot, right? We don't have control. So then the wisdom is to fix the internal, right? And again, if you detonate this self-grasping ignorance complemented by this self-centered attitude, these two, then you are free because with one hand, no matter, there is no sound of.
Thank you.
So, little bit I'm understanding ultimate analysis. So, somewhere the question is coming, if I start doing that every day, then it's overwhelming. And you go crazy if I start doing that for everything. If practically, if I'm able to, if I start doing that, then somewhere all my happy labubus will go away. You know, everybody has different happy labubus. Yeah? Our own labubus in our life. If I start with ultimate analysis of every happy labubus in my life, then it's gone. My happiness is gone. So then somewhere, if I want my suffering to go, my happiness has to go with it.
Priyanka has been a past life student. Are you really here to check on me or what are you here to do exactly? So Priyanka is raising two questions that Geshe really makes us laugh. Once I think somebody told him that like please, I'm not sure I want to become a Buddha because Buddha like can't really watch television. That's one thing. And secondly, you know, so you're saying that all the good stuff will also. I think the other thing that, you know, like I think it was Niels Bohr or somebody that Geshe quotes that saying that if you aren't shocked by these teachings, you have not understood them. Right? So I think like to relate that to what you said, like ultimate analysis, you know, because you're just bound by our conventionals. And on the basis of that, although this Labubu example is quite a small one, but to be very honest, you know, I can take that view. to relate that to your earlier question, I always thought that of the afflictions, like the three outputs are central, like ignorance, attachment, and aversion, right? And I thought aversion was the bigger one, like hatred, anger, that whole family, right? And it is a very big one because they say it can destroy all your virtues in one second and all of that. But I always thought attachment, and it's a nice one. But actually, attachment is a subtler affliction. You can always disguise it even to yourself. And what we are willing to do for it is sometimes also extraordinary, right? Like I'm sitting in Mumbai. If you think of now the metropolitan cities and again what people are willing to do for wealth, to keep it, to get it, to all these, and again, it's not a judgment like what Aditya is saying, but when you really start thinking that how we are led by the nose because of these factors and this fundamental ignorance. So there I would say, Priyanka, that being exposed to this philosophy and just starting to really think, so what you're saying, the teachers have said, what Lama Tsongkhapa is told by the Buddha of wisdom, that don't destroy the conventions of this world, meaning you enjoy them at the level of convention, right? Enjoy them. A De Beers diamond and a carbon pencil, the composition is the same. But conventionally, a De Beers is a De Beers, though I don't know in the age of carbon diamond how long De Beers will remain De Beers. And there again you see dependent origination, right? That De Beers, somebody marketing company 70 years ago, if you love, you will send a diamond and then they do artificial pricing. And as an economist, I know that, how can you charge like what is Labubu and a Gucci bag and all you, how that is only because you differentiate on some really small factors and then you do marketing and all, right, product differentiation. And on that basis, you make some artificial scarcity and then you just, and that's it. So now, like a De Beers diamond and then carbon pencil, and if you go into those analysis, right, then the convention falls apart, right? So, but you enjoy it at the level of convention. So he's saying respect convention because convention also is where cause and effect operates, right? He said that there are two things. One side is engineering of objective existence, and the other side of the coin is dependent origination. So dependent origination, like that works in parallel cause and effect, right? If there's a diamond, right? So emptiness of objective diamond. But on the other side, dependent on the various factors of it, that is in mind, this has happened, that has happened, and look at this color, this character. It is a diamond, right? It cannot be denied. And yes, at convention level, it functions for what it's worth. But if you really go into that, beyond that, and you examine, I think it frees us, Priyanka, because look at the life's efforts in what direction, right? And so if you really think about this philosophy, and that's why I shared in the morning that for me personally, this was not about, going from secular, liberal, or critical, or eating with one religion or this, or ism of any kind, country. That's not required also. But if you really get into this philosophy, it is captivating because this is it. If this is the ontological reality which even physics is saying, right? Then that is our reality. And it's always good to be closer to the truth. But enjoy convention. I mean, I love cappuccino as much as But do I have to be driven by the nose for that cappuccino? And we live in late stage capitalism where honestly these teachings, I mean, today I was thinking yesterday, John, it cannot be more opposite than neoclassical. You come to those verses, you see what I mean, right? But then I was thinking, like, logically, if you think about the reality being such, it makes so much sense. So yeah, we do, like, when we talked about ignorance in the morning, seeing impermanent as permanent. Then we spoke about seeing suffering as happiness, right? Then seeing impure as pure. Impure not in a moral sense, but like, if I don't wash for 2 days, we don't wash, we see the nature of our bodies. and everything, right? But still, we wash and this and put perfume on best clothes, and then we go up the reality. And then this level of ignorance is the deepest level. If things are empty of objective existence and we are seeing them as objective existence, and on that basis we are all fighting, and even in our homes and all, right? Look at the, I mean, I think now India, metropolitan India and all, if you look at it, if you really start reflecting, then you can see the reality of people's actions based on such an objective existence, I and mine, am I and me. And on this basis, all this stack. I think Buddha can ignore capital.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Ma'am, this is just to reiterate what I understand by the activists. Ma'am, please correct me. From happiness point of view, when you the dualism, extremes, right and wrong, good and bad, if we start observing from that point of view, that's not disappearing. So, if I give an example, if we watch a television program of a lion hunting a deer, if we are not trained to understand the happiness, then we will be either we will be found toward the deer or to the lion. The safety we will be by the side of the deer or to the lion. The safety, deer should be safe or lion should be killed. But from the, if you understand the happiness and try through the experience of the life, then you start seeing it in perspective. And that's from where the compassion may be originating. When they say practical compassion is coming into existence, then I will say yes, there are some aspects. That's how the life cycle goes, and both have got its own purpose and that's good. And this can be generalized with our whole day, our day. Am I right in saying this?
I think I would say, G, like to take your example, we can think about seeing a lion killing a deer in a dream. In a dream. Or in a movie. Let's say you're in a movie theater and you are watching National Geographic. And you are unaware that you are watching a National Geographic movie and you believe it to be real. And you're sitting with Tenzin and Tenzin starts crying because the lion catches the deer and eats it up, right? And you also start crying together with her because it's such a good movie, David Attenborough's done a great job. But if you become aware that it is a movie, you are still seeing the lion eating the deer, but the emotional reaction is going to be much subdued, right? So this is the analogy, like for emptiness, if you are aware of it and if you realize it. So when in the meditative equipoise, like we said earlier, everything will dissolve, right? Because you see the emptiness of objective existence, the objects dissolve, you see atoms and all. The objectively real tiger, objectively real deer, objectively real act of feeling all dissolve, right? So you feel. But when you come out of it, infallible, dependent origination, in conventional analysis, you will see the lion eat the deer. You will not see the lion suddenly looking up to the deer. Right? But, so you will see it illusion-like existence. So this is what the analogy is.
I mean, in fact, in the case of happiness, understanding the happiness, everything, as we say, it is a relation, the word relation. As we see the object, some object is here. So it is the relationship. I'm drinking, I need water, I'm thirsty. Then for me, the object is water. I will be drinking. But suppose if I am a scientist experimenting in the laboratory, then that will be the relationship between me and the water is more like molecule or atom.
Yeah, everything is relative, and even in this inappropriate attention is relativity, right? Now, what is wealth for Ambani is very different to what is wealth for me. This is relative.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think my question ties into what they said. So I was thinking about when we had a slide that said that meditating more time. will eventually lead you to have more compassion. I find it quite difficult, personally. And for me, when I look at all the different, interviews and all the discussions, the closest I can come to it is to feel like a sense of, for want of a better word, nausea feeling that everything is changing, everything is impermanent, the extreme emotions that we feel when we fall in love with somebody, whether it's more that. So for me, when I hear all of these things, and maybe this is not a negative thing to feel, but I can't find the better word. I just feel like this feeling of kind of indifference or blase, but not in a negative way. But it's, maybe we should not think things very carefully. And maybe that is a way of, for me, to avoid the suffering that you're going to have. I don't know if I articulated my.
No, that's a very good question, Nikki. I would say two things. One is that compassion per se, and we're going to go into it more, but one thing is, as I shared in an earlier slide, that when you see and experience your own suffering, if you apply that to every other being, for yourself it generates renunciation, for others it generates compassion, right? Because you feel that just like myself, everybody in this room has this experience of A, B, C, D. That's one thing. So it is very important to understand renunciation as we make it here, like renouncing your miseries, and then thinking about this so much, and then also applying it to other people and what kind of activities, because we are caught up in this cycle, what karmas. Like, to be honest, if you ask me that in this operation of cause and effect, we often feel like our mundane compassion is just for suffering of suffering. Now, after these teachings, you should also feel suffering, compassion for people undergoing suffering of change. And when we get to that level, pervasive condition suffering, right? So there you feel that, okay, whether it's King Kardashian, even she's having the same suffering as the king in Bharati. It's not only those who are manifest suffering, that is so anybody can see even before you came to this class. हम कह रहे हैं कि यहाँ इस क्लास के बाद आने के बाद तो महाकरुणा जो जगती है वो सिर्फ ये जिसका सफरिंग दिखाई दे ऊपर से, पर नंबर 2 वाला सफरिंग जो बाहर से खुशी लगता है, पर उसका क्या सफरिंग का स्टेटस है, हमने बोला था ना, सफरिंग दुख के 3 टाइप। और फिर सबसे फंडामेंटल लेवल हर चीज को ऑब्जेक्टिवली रियल देखना, वो सफरिंग जब आप वो देख लो, फिर आपका कंपैशन इलॉन मस्क और बहुत गरीब लोगों के लिए एकदम से होगा। ये हमारे लेवल से बहुत दूर है ना। हम सोचते हैं देखो इनकी लाइफ तो इतना अच्छा चल रहा है, इतना अमीर, अच्छी जिंदगी, अंबानी का शादी चल रहा है, इसमें क्या सफरिंग है? तो उसका मतलब ये तो आपने इस फिलॉसफी का सोचा ही नहीं।
That thing to feel that blase sometimes.
No, blase I would say
ordinary people like us who don't practice this.
No, one thing they do say, Nikki, that is related to what even Priyanka's point is that initially when you go in to think more about it, you will inevitably have veer towards the nihilistic view. Why? That's why those 2 gates. Do things exist? Do they exist objectively? Those 2 gates should be forever with us when we are talking about ethics. So as Priyanka was saying, if you really start thinking about it all the time, like, things like even I'm showering with water into atoms, I'm atoms, I'm eating atoms, blue is atoms, whatever, right? So, but the fact is that if we do that, yes, you can feel towards nihilism, but those 2 gates are so important because you keep coming back to that. And the reason I said that the compassion generated here, we just feel such shallow compassion, right? Even with each other. Like if some friend is really going through difficulties, you feel like, yeah, it's me, tell you I help. And next time if that friend starts doing better than you, then you feel highly irritated. And we are going to come to that in the lojong, right? Then our compassion is very shallow, right? अब हमारा compassion कहाँ जगेगा? हम सोचते हैं कि हमारे का बहुत अच्छा चल रहा है, अब हम सिर्फ गरीब लोग का देखेगा तो that is only level 1, right, of suffering. And to be able to see that, and from another perspective, like if I think creating the causes of suffering, why do these teachings say, like for example, extreme wealth, extreme power, these are really vast karmic results, right, in a way, and a very heavy karmic potential. Because as the person was saying earlier, like as disastrous as I may be in teaching or any such thing, I'm not influencing that many people, right? So, but if I'm somebody like the leader of a country who's engaged in mass killing, if I'm one of these tech brothers who has founded like all these social media platforms, where yes, there are many positives, but downstream the dark web, pedophilia. Some of my friends is working in London, economist on the dark web, and she said horrific. So those downstream results, those are also those tech bosses' causes, right? So great millionaires, great wealth, great power. I mean, some president people are shaking the world, right? That karmic cause and effect, that's on you, bro. Yeah.
Can you just add that being lazy is the concept?
Yeah.
You take this question.
And still Pavlov's Tiaga's question, like she asked that if you enjoy something too much, then as there is a hope, then you're supposed to use the thing, will feel the pain. The more we enjoy that thing, you take the thing away from us, more pain will feel.
Exactly.
So what I feel is the only option we have is not to enjoy things too much. Like graph would be like this, you will enjoy things. Because this is happiness, this is sadness. But if I'm not enjoying too much, graph would be like this. So is that so, or is there some other way? Like if I want to enjoy documentary.
What is your name?
Me too.
Me too. Nice question. And again, I think you are so young, but what we see as suffering and happiness can be also, like I'm saying, one of the ignorances is seeing suffering as happiness. And that is why I raised the 3 sufferings. Now, the thing is that if you think about it, a lot of that's why I put up, some of this down. Our preconceptions color quite a lot of what, like for example, to give you a very straightforward example, had I got a permanent lectureship in Oxford, Cambridge or LSE, I would never have come back to India at the time. And yet, I had a lot of trepidation, how will it be, 13 years I've lived there and I've lived XYZ. But when I came back to India, within 3 months I knew I would never go out again to live another soul. But my own preconceptions of, what is happiness, what is not. And you are too young, me too, but now what the Kadampa scholars teach, they say impermanent suffering and emptiness, these 3, they purify the mind of this, the supreme is emptiness. Now you are correct. Why is mundane happiness the hook? Because A, we have no control, right? Yes, if the dream is going well, super. If the dream suddenly goes totally sour, then it just shatters everything for us, right? That's one. Number 2, when you think about attachment, anger, a lot of anger is generated when we do not actually get what we want. What we think we want or what we want, right? Whether it's in regards to a person or an object. And I won't go into it here, but to be honest, what we do to get things, it's quite shocking, right? Seriously. To marry well, to keep wealth, if you really go into the innards of even seeing like family dynamics with the super wealthy, doubt even the dog can trust the cat, right? Because maybe that they are there for the money, not, like if you go really start examining. But I think to really think about this, that's why this verse is so critical. Because just think about it, like, just put in any example that you would like and that resonates with you personally, right? And the final thing is that, yes, you see, if the dream is going well, why is that still suffering? Because you have no control. I don't know if I go back to Delhi and tomorrow I get some diagnosis and by 27 I'm gone, right? Or something like, it's so the thing about this dream, believing the dream to be real, you are just caught up in the dream until it's too late. That is the big. You won't spend time examining all these and getting into all this because you are just caught up in that dream. But should you have one moment of great tragedy, like say people, something like I'm thinking about that lady in Gaza who maybe lost 10 children and her husband as well. She was left with one kid, right? Overnight, your reality is changed. You go from you are just A to B, and then she reached Italy also. You are like, then that kind of thing. Then you want to be waken up from the dream, right? Because you have no control in the dream. So that is the reasoning. For that, you need to get out of this ignorance. So you can still enjoy. Like I think there's no problem with enjoyment, but you see things for what they are.
They not have inappropriate.
Yeah, and that will depend on first seeing things objectively.
Sort of related to what you're saying. If I see something inappropriate showing up in front of me, my question also is that if I start to recognize this as a dream, if I wake up and see that even though this is not an illusion, but it is illusion-like, how will I show up as a person who can change the reality? Because someone says something cruel happening, which gives me a lot of suffering. That suffering makes me want to intervene and stop that cruelty from taking place. But recognizing that this is an illusion like reduces some of my suffering. So that it also reduces my motivation to act and therefore improve the reality or perceived realities.
I would say, Manju, that it is, in fact, it should double it. That's what Aryan and Aruna say. For two reasons. Number one, because just because you have seen emptiness directly, let's say, for auspiciousness, but doesn't mean that others have, right? And you just see how they are in this movable area and they have no food, right? And they are creating all these causes for suffering all the time for the future, right? That's one thing. And the second thing is that you, of course, I feel pain. Do not deny the reality. That's why we said, do things exist? Yes, of course. And just because they are illusion like doesn't mean they are illusion. So within that, like there's functionality, there's injustice, so in fact it is the bodhisattva wow that if you are able to do things, it is a downfall not to do for others or in difficult situations where you must. Because for sure there is cause and effect, it's happening, it's operating at that level. Conventional reality very much is there. And that we cannot just will it by sitting here and saying that the air is clean, everything has gone after COVID, poverty disappeared, this, that, all this, that is there. So if we then, what should we do? Should we?
I'm not monopolizing conversation. I just wanted to check. Where is equanimity big? I've heard this word very regularly in circles. I understand it intellectually, but not really grasp it from the perspective of
Equanimity, yeah, that is coming in that is one of the prelim steps. It's like if you're going to build a big house or bodhicitta, which we are going to look at in the next session, where we need an even ground. So not excessive attachment to sound, excessive intuitive. But that's where it fits in. But it's a prelim step and not the main step of one of the methods of generating bodhicitta, which we will not cover here because we don't have time. But prelim because it's not something that is unique to the Mahayana teachings. Mahayana and bodhicitta is unique to the Mahayana teachings. Okay.
I have this conceptual ambiguity with regards to Buddhism. What is the Bodhisattva vow? This says that we will go again and again to alleviate the sufferings of others. And there's this concept of nirvana to exit this cycle of reincarnation. So which is true?
So basically, Aditya is asking as a student of Buddhism, which is so for those who are interested. So I think in a secular language we can talk about two things: Aditya, fearlessness and infinite happiness. So in the technical language, fearlessness is nirvana, and infinite happiness would be full awakening. Now, in terms of the technicalities, when does one become an arhat or somebody who has say for those who seek. So the goal for the two types of beings is different. One seeks personal liberation for themselves to get out of this cycle, and that's it. Those beings. And for them, the technical definition is somebody who has eradicated self-grasping ignorance, what we've been talking since morning. Full Buddhahood is somebody who is very courageous, to Manjot's question. Somebody who is audacious enough to say that, may I become awakened for the benefit of all sentient beings. Somebody who therefore has enough self-confidence. And the Tibetan word for Jamchuk Sempa, Bodhisattva, is like, in another word, it's also Pavo, like the courageous one. Because it requires a lot of courage, self-confidence, and you really need to, therefore because you are saying, may I become a Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings, right? And for the Bodhisattva, the goal is full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. And therefore it may take longer, but in terms of the wisdom that they each have, they are the same, right? We are looking at. And even for self-grasping ignorance eradication, and then for full Buddhahood, what you have to work with is wisdom. The motivation is very different. For the beings of the smaller capacity or whatever, it is personal liberation, they mostly focus on the Four Noble Truths, sufferings, those things. And for the full awakening, the motivation is bodhicitta, this, closeness to other sentient beings and all that. And therefore, these two. And so there's no one way for anybody. This is a journey of many lifetimes, and we are touching at the ground reality. So the thing is that there's no right or wrong. I feel that's what I also love about this philosophy. There's no even ism, like I say, different. We all have to be born alone and die alone, and therefore our journey is what we fundamentally hold true. And like I was saying earlier, I really respect people like Christopher Richards, Richard Dawkins, agnostic atheists. If they are having that belief and they are able to die comfortably, good for them, There's no one way. And I think it's our own mental disposition from many lifetimes, even within a family. So we all each have to see our own, there's no like that way I'm quite for religion as for personal reasons. But philosophy and science as for everybody. And also I would like to say that, the Dalai Lama, His Holiness, has been the one who has really brought these, what they call Pali tradition, Sanskrit tradition into conversation. And, because they share a lot in common. And I also want to say that even the personal liberation seekers, their levels of compassion are quite different to ordinary beings. Extremely high. So it's a fallacy to think that their compassion is just nothing, and then it is actually still immeasurable compassion. Here it is Mahakaruna, but those are really now again talking in air, sitting there. Like these masters and teachers, that's then practice of it, right? Those levels. So frankly, even personal liberation seekers have high levels of compassion. It's not like they are just. So maybe then, if it's not too long, then we can break and then we will have session as
First of all, thank you so much for engaging post-lunch with such intense questions, and for everyone for engaging with the questions. Just repeating a few housekeeping.